Hi everyone, thanks for joining me on Between the Sundays. I appreciate it that you came to my channel. So sometimes we come across passages in the Bible like Philippians 2, 3, and 4 that says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." And we think about that, and we think, well, how does that play out? How do we put that into practical living? The thing is that if we don't have that goal in mind of putting others before ourselves and finding ways to do that, really looking for those opportunities and maybe even thinking outside the box if they don't present themselves normally, have that goal for each day to be a blessing to others, and life can just keep happening, and there's so much that distracts us in the meantime. They can just absorb our day. And so anyway, I wanted to share this devotion with you because it was an inspiration to me. I still think about this. I initially read this probably like 15 years ago, and it still comes back to me as one of the most unbelievable things I've read and a challenge to my soul. And I don't really want to just summarize it. I want to talk about it, but I'd really like to read it to you because I know that grasping the whole of her story would really help you to understand exactly how much she makes that effort. If you met her online, you'd know her by the name of Faith in Him 7, which is fitting. Sarah Helfrich's faith shines as she leads an online group of women in prayer, Bible study, and mutual encouragement. Her cheerful attitude, words of wisdom, and keen intelligence come through to those who meet her only by a computer. One can sense her faith, but she wasn't always a woman of faith. Sarah had troubled teen years, including being raped twice and being addicted to heroin and alcohol. After the second rape, which left her pregnant, she spent months in the hospital recovering from the attack and her addictions. This led her to salvation and becoming clean and sober in 1973. Shortly thereafter, Sarah married a man who proved to be extremely violent and abusive. 4 days after she was diagnosed with breast cancer in May 1984, her husband abandoned her and her 3 sons. In December 1984, she had a radical mastectomy. Doctors discovered Hodgkin's disease and bone cancer as well. Many times they gave her only weeks or days to live. God gave her more. In January 1985, her church sent a Christian man named Dennis to mentor her 3 sons. He also ministered to Sarah. They fell in love and were married September 20th, 1985. He was a blessing, even coaching her son's soccer team. When the team caught chickenpox, Dennis did too. Sarah laughed as they played Connect the Pox. Her laughter stopped when a rare complication caused a deadly strain of pneumonia and Dennis's death. This tragedy drew Sarah closer to God. She says everything was awful again, more cancer treatments, more surgeries, more grief, but lots of the Lord. Her most recent surgery was the removal of her voice box. A woman of lesser faith would have given up, or at least stopped helping others, but not Sarah. When they cut away her ability to speak, she kept her ability to smile. She simply moved her ministry online where she doesn't need a voice to be heard. When she goes to the hospital by ambulance, she takes a list of friends to pray for. When she stays awake from her own pain, she prays for others. When she goes in for treatments, she cheers up the people she meets at the hospital. Sometimes she wears a chalkboard around her neck bearing this message: I can't speak, but I'm a great listener and I can pray. Sarah uses each day God gives her to spread her faith wherever she goes. Of her own life, Sarah writes, I am not asking why me. The answer would be, why not you? I've always asked God to use me in any way He could. It is my heart's desire to serve Him and be an example of His tender love, mercy, and grace. I've been all kinds of places I shouldn't have been, and I've reaped the things I've sown. I love the Lord, and I will follow Him wherever He takes me. If He can use me to touch just one life, then all of this will be for His glory and honor. How selfless is that? This Bible was copyrighted in 1997, and I'm honestly not sure if Sarah is still alive or anything. I did do research on her, but could not find any information. So or maybe she was remarried. The website seems to not be there. So anyway, it was a challenge to me. She was so self-sacrificing, or is so self-sacrificing. And I'm sure we all know people in our lives who are amazing and self-sacrificing. My mom happens to be one of those people in my life, and I am constantly amazed by her, even at 91, how much she tries to put other people before herself. It's just inspiring. But you know what? God can use us wherever we are, whatever we're in, whatever situation we're in. He can use us. We just have to be willing. And part of that is growing in our Christian life. And honestly, you guys, you know, spending time alone with God, talking to Him and reading the Word and trying to implement it into our lives, all of those things not only draw us closer to God, but help us to live more for Him and want to. And if we struggle sometimes with that, I know I do. I can be very selfish, and God convicts me of that. But we can ask God to help us to have that desire for anything in our lives that we know that He wants us to do. We can ask God to grow that desire in our hearts, and then we can put it more into practice. And sometimes we don't feel like obeying Him. But as I heard Joyce Meyer say today, the growth takes place when we choose to obey Him at the times we don't feel like it. That's when real growth happens. And honestly, I have found that some of those times that I have implemented what I know to be His will, and I haven't felt like it, have brought the most peace. Those acts of obedience are just what pivots us into living a more godly life. And honestly, each day that we follow His Word, we are growing closer to what He wants us to be. And I want to help you get there. I want to help us grow together into that direction. And so I leave you with that challenge for today and maybe throughout this week. I hope you have a wonderful day, and God blesses you. Bye.